I think the most important discoveries in science are the unexpected results. You know, and if you are technically skilled and you get an unexpected result and you're confident with what you've done, then you can really move on and you can start thinking about, well, why? You know, why was it different, and where do we go next? Research, you absolutely have to have this ability to question whatever you've decided and to reverse decisions and to completely change your approach. You know, to turn on a dime almost, you know, when you wake up with a new thought or a new understanding, or when you see an experimental result. In medicine, and you take time over decisions. You know, you don't make snappy decisions about, okay, we're doing this, we're doing that, we're doing the other. You consider. It's definitely the case in medicine that you have to be decisive, and you have to be decisive without full command of the facts, without having had the opportunity to think through, you know, a million scenarios. And so it's much more of a spinal reflex, you know, based on experience type of approach. And then what you cannot do is come back in the next morning and you say, you know, that decision we made yesterday, let's take another look at it and reverse it. You just can't do that. So you're going between certainty and uncertainty. Has to be your modus operandi, and that I think is quite hard.
And I'm interested in how you begin to define a scientific venture with all of those dimensions in mind as a success. So what if a patient doesn't necessarily respond positively to a treatment, but you make an incredible advancement? So I know you had a patient that responded not fully to a treatment, but you got really good pictures or images out of it. I'm, of course, ignorant in terms of the science, but how do you balance that to say, okay, this was a productive or successful venture?
Well, I don't call that success.
Yeah.
I mean, success is when the treatment actually benefits the patient. You know, everything else is it's important information, and you know, we absolutely have to take note of it and use it to guide how we develop our approach. You know, what directions we take. I mean, it's a constant feedback into the machine to try and perfect the therapy and the way the therapy is administered. But to me, it's just not a success to see beautiful images. It's just important information. And it may validate one approach or another approach that we're using, but I'm sort of, you know, fixated on this end goal of clinical response. I mean, I've had one success in my life. Yeah. And that was a patient who had a spectacular response, Stacey Erholtz, who's still doing extraordinarily well. And that means the world to me. And I, you know, I would love to make that a recurrent kind of theme with patients who come in. She, every time I speak to her by phone or when I see her in the clinic, reminds me of that. I mean, she's very anxious herself to see it, you know, disseminated. And that's the challenge, you know. And so I don't want you to get the impression that I'm miserable about anything that falls short of a, you know, home run cure. But honestly, that for me, that's where my success barrier is.
And how you don't get discouraged with the process then. How do you find that you keep yourself motivated? Has this just been like a part of your personality, or does it something develop throughout your career?
Well, that's interesting actually, because I think your motivations and drivers change with time. I think it's probably a general thing, and it's not just me, but you know, you start out, I mean, when I first decided that it was going to be oncolytic virotherapy that I was going to pursue as a life career, it was something that people would applaud, and it was something that I knew was a good thing to do, and you know, there were all the right sort of motivations there that you would expect to see in a young, you know, fresh out of medical school person. As I got deeper and deeper into it, and become more familiar and more knowledgeable and more skilled in deciding, you know, where the process should next go, the motivation becomes different. It's a sort of addictive game. It's like a crossword puzzle that you're halfway through. You know, you don't keep doing it because it's going to save the world or because it's going to be a great thing to do. You keep doing it because you're good at it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what you do.
Yeah.
And there's a satisfaction in the process. And so I think that has become like my day-to-day driver. Is probably more that now. It's just like it's in front of me and I'm immersed in it, and that's what I do.
Yeah.
And I enjoy doing it very much.
Well, I would imagine that's what you need to do, because you need the shorter term satisfaction. If, you know, achieving success in your definition is so difficult or so long term, that'd be impossible to drive yourself with, I think. Yeah.
So it has, you know, it becomes the game you play, and I think that's probably true of a lot of things for a lot of people.